How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Visit USAA.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
Brooks Running reminds us that we're all powered by something. Whether it's the me-time energy of a run after a day at the office, the electrifying energy of your first marathon, or the infectious energy of a group run with your friends. No matter what energy powers you, Brooks has gear specifically designed to unleash it. So lace up and let it out. Let's run there. Visit brooksrunning.com today to learn more.
Vitamin Water Zero Sugar has great taste, zero BS, and obviously zero sugar. For those with zero room in their calendar, zero patience for slow walkers, those who get 0 hours of sleep on a Saturday night, have zero filter, zero given, and zero interest in grabbing a plain, boring water. Grab a delicious Vitamin Water Zero Sugar today.
Hey, this is Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast, here to help you make the most of your summer with Michelob Ultra, a superior light beer worth playing for. Play for it with the guys when you're competing to see who can sink more birdies on the golf course, because winning tastes even better with Ultra on the line. Play for Ultra. Fill your fridge with Michelob Ultra this summer. Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2025 Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Hi, this is Tony Ruggiero here on the Tour Coach. If you're looking to get better at coaching, teaching, or playing the game of golf, you're in the right spot. I'm about to take you behind the scenes, inside the ropes, with all of the people I meet on my journey in the game of golf that are here to shed some experiences and shed some information that's going to help your journey improve and get better. Get ready. Let's go. Let's get better. All right. Joining me here on the Tour Coach, someone I've gotten to know over the last, it's been a pretty good number of years now. Watched his journey from first met him at golf.com, and now he's moved over to Golf Digest. I'm one of his more high maintenance people. I joke around bugging him all the time, but Kerr Dineen with Golf Digest. Luke, thanks for taking the time, one, for sitting in this morning, and two, congrats. It's been fun watching your journey from the first days I met you to, I mean, you've created yourself not only for Digest, but this brand of instruction on social media, and embraced it when, you know, early on, not every teacher and every person thought it was going to be as big a deal on social media. But it is. It's been fun to watch you grow and build it. And thanks for all the support.
Oh, please. Thank you, Tony. And yes, you always say you're high maintenance, but I just tell you that out of love. You're great. And yeah, happy to do this. Excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I want to talk about, I've mentioned before we went on the air, we obviously have most people that drive around and listen to podcasts like this. They're either golf nerds, swing nerds, or they're young up and coming teachers that are trying to get better. And when I started this podcast and started some of the stuff, I never thought it would be as much towards teachers, but we get so many comments from that. And so I thought it'd be interesting because you watch so many golf swings and you interact with so many teachers doing what you do. At Digest, y'all are doing this piece now called The Grid, and you've brought, obviously you guys are bringing tour players, and you watch all of these tour players and do these different things. Curious, what have you found are some commonalities, whether it's in their game or in their swing or in their approach that you see? Because I know when I'm around tour players and the work I do, they all swing different. There's different swings, but there certainly are some commonalities in the way they approach and the way they handle things.
Yeah, I tell you one thing that's funny. So the Grid is this game basically that we constructed. Every time we get a pro, we usually get them to do it. And there are 10-yard gaps basically. And they go from, 180 to 190 all the way to 270 to 280, so like you got to hit a ball into each of them basically. And, you can adapt this. Basically pros, they're usually hitting about like a 7 or 8 iron into that first gap. And then a firm 3-wood into the final one. So it's kind of an awkward, there are some awkward distances along the way. You can adapt this game to yourself. But one thing I find interesting is that when pros are doing this, they're always like hitting the ball solidly. I mean, I know that sounds a little basic, but if you were to try this, or me or you were to try, you know, like, and we're trying to hit an 8-iron into a 10-yard gap, we'd hit one and we'd miss hit it slightly, so it'd come up short, so we'd hit it again, and oh, maybe now we've realized that we've got the wrong club, so we switch clubs, they hit it again, oh, we've mishit it again. The consistency in their strike is just always there. You know, they're basically like never missing a gap because they're mishitting it. They're just like these small little calibration errors, like there's slight misjudgments, and then as soon as they get that, then they're like, oh, okay, I got it now. Switch club, got it. And they usually almost always, when they miss a gap, they always get it in the second shot. But again, long-winded way of saying, it's the centeredness of contact for me that is just blows me away with them. You know, they don't always hit it on a string, but they're basically always hitting it out of the screws.
I agree. I think that's one, that's something not everybody picks up on, but two, I always look at when I'm out there with players, how good they are, and this goes to solid contact, but their distance control. They may hit it a little right or may hit it left. You very seldom see them miss their target by 12 yards short or 10 yards long. That's kind of why I like that whole Tiger deal at TGL when he on the simulator and he missed the green by 20 yards or something. Everybody's like, "There's no way he hadn't missed the green by 20 yards with a wedge since he was 7, right?" You know, but that to me is always stuck in my mind being around them is how well they control their distances, and obviously that goes to solid contact.
Yeah, and like I think you were saying too that, you know, a lot of amateur golfers, they go down this rabbit hole of wanting to swing harder, wanting to swing longer, and that's all great and it works. But for most golfers, especially when you're talking about golfers who are shooting over, I don't know, Tony, you 80, you know, your path to hitting it further is more consistency in the way you strike it. That's probably going to have a bigger upgrade on your driving distance than you trying to like add an extra few inches onto your backswing or whatever it may be. It's just that centeredness of contact again is just, it's something that's so important. I mean, it struck me again too because Bryson did the grid, but we also had him demonstrate this drill that he did where he put tees on either side of his club head, one just outside the toe, one just outside the heel, and he would hit balls. And he did 20 consecutive balls without hitting the tees. He could have kept going, and these are millimeters outside the tee. He said, "Yeah, I did this drill a lot growing up, just to teach myself to hit the center of that club face." And they just, I don't know, the more you look for it, the more you realize that this is the highest of priorities for them, making sure they hit the ball before the ground and making sure they hit the ball in the center of the face. And they don't really sweat the small stuff when it comes to left, right. You know, they don't like missing it in those directions, but they really, to your point, really care about distance control, really care about the strike itself. And I think that there's probably less than that for the rest of us.
Yeah, I mean, we do this a lot actually. Jackson Court, you know Jackson from all the stuff we've all done, and he's done this with us at retreats. But we'll get junior players to hit something good, to do whatever they're working on, to find it solid, maybe hitting a 7-iron 100 yards.
Yeah.
But then add 10-yard increments at a time. Just try to go 10 yards further, keeping the solid contact. And I think that's a good lesson from tour players for recreational golfers out there. Go out there and learn how to hit it solid, even if it's at a slow speed, and then work your way up.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point. That's always what's so amazing to me. Another thing that always sticks out to me is how even like the guys you wouldn't think of as technical pros, you know, guys who aren't very tech minded, they're so tuned into their spin. You know, they just like, they see, I mean, Tony, you're on the front lines, you tell me, but it seems like these guys just think about that so much, like their spin. If they do hit one slightly off them, they're immediately being like, oh, look at the way that spun, look at the spin rate. And they're just always thinking about it. And I just find that really fascinating.
Well, they have such an ability to, right when they hit it, they know where they miss, how much they mishit it. Whereas recreational golfers, you know, will have a trackpad or a quad and you can see exactly where they're hitting it and how sometimes they're pretty far off. You know, they'll be, whereas the tour player, like you said, I mean, they know, oh, that ball's going to be 7 yards short because I hit it off the heel, right? Like their instincts about knowing how short something is or how long it's going to go, or they'll hit a drive that you and I might say just watching in a crowd looks good, but that was a high toe. So it looks good, but it's not, it wasn't a great swing or whatever. So now you've watched you analyze, you put all the great content out there on Instagram and X. What are some of your favorite golf swings of people that you're watching out there now on tour, and why?
It's funny. Like, I feel like a lot of golf fans love the long, flowing golf swings. Jake Knapp, for instance. They love the big ramp up time stuff. And while I obviously like those golf swings, those aren't ever really clocked as my favorite golf swings. I mean, I tend to prefer. It's fully subjective and it's not best for everyone, but I love those like symmetrical, clean lines looking golf swings. That's just what I like to look at. Again, not saying that everybody has their own different pattern, but so two guys who fall into that bucket for me, someone like Sepp Straka. I love Sepp's swing.
Yeah.
Just clean lines, nice and looks nice and simple. I really like Wyndham Clark's golf swing too. Part of Wyndham's Clark is my tendency in my own golf swing is to not really turn enough through. My pivot can stall on me and my hands can get flippy. And I feel like Wyndham is on the opposite end of that spectrum where he is really loading into his trail and then he's just turning so aggressive. It's such a body release through the ball. It's very much the opposite of like what a pro version of my golf swing would be, where it's like my upper body can tend to stall, my hands can tend to go. And so I always look at someone like Wyndham and I think, that's a nice move. I would like that move.
Yeah, but that's great too. And I think that's a good lesson for golfers out there it's good to find somebody and watch some swings that are the opposite of what you do, of what you're trying to do.
Right.
It really is.
Yeah, like I always found that like it's and I get that, say like a 10 handicap or a 15 handicap, maybe listening to this and be like, well, which pro is like my golf swing? They're in a different universe, and there's some truth there, but you'll be surprised that if you have patterns, let's say you tend to get steep and over the top or whatever it may be. There are pros who have that flaw too, that habit too that can creep up in their own golf swings, and you can learn a lot by analyzing how the kinds of things that they do in their swing to help them manage it. You
take Wyndham Clark, who you just talked about. We had John Ellis on the pod once, and there's a guy that fights getting too steep and outside, right? Because he plays a cut, so he tries to hit draws on the range. Right? And it's a simple thing, right? But people would say, oh, I can't, I'm not like John, I'm not like Wyndham Clark. I'm steep and outside and I'm a slicer. But there's a great lesson in a drill from a guy that's one of the better players in the world.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, it's Paris. I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. Becoming the most valuable sports franchise in the world doesn't happen without risk. A man who's willing to bet it all, and the players ready to make their own luck. America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys, is the story of the 1990s Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones's impact on NFL history. Featuring interviews with iconic 90s players and more. Watch America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys, August 19th, only on Netflix.
You're tuned into Auto Intelligence, live from Auto Trader, where data, tools, and your preferences sync to make your car shopping smooth.
They're searching inventory.
Oh, yeah.
They find what you need.
They're gonna find it.
You can make a budget for your wallet to help you succeed. Pricing's precise and true.
So true.
It's smarter car shopping.
Ooh.
Just for you.
Oh, it's just for you. Ooh. Find your next ride at autotrader.com. Powered by Auto Intelligence.
Yeah, and like I feel like it's always helpful to find somebody whose golf swing kind of, if it doesn't look like you, they kind of the same build as you, maybe they have the same general habits as you. It's like find your similarity and then find somebody who's on the opposite end of the spectrum, and then that can just help frame it. So like the two guys, if Wyndham's on the like high, big body release guy, cutter, he's one guy I always look at. But then someone like Brooks, I tend to learn a lot from hearing him speak, or he did the grid, and that was, and that's because he talks about the same thing where his arms tend to get up on the backswing, his body tends to stall through the ball. He'll hit a lot of golf shots off side slopes with the ball above his feet to force him to turn through. So you just pick up these little things where you're like, oh, that's interesting. Like how does this guy work on this same general flaw that I have in my own move?
Yeah. And I mean, and again, what's interesting, obviously, you have the extremes where you have crazy technical guys out there, but then when you just talked about Brooks, and I mentioned Wyndham, I'm sure they get technical at times with their teacher, but they have very simple, practical ways to try to get feels for things for when they're practicing or on the golf course. You talked about Brooks with the side slope and slopes and different things like that. And again, I think those are good lessons for any golfer out there that's trying to make a change. I mean, you got to find things that give you feels for when you go out there and you try to practically apply it.
Yeah, it's such a good point, because I feel like I know you tell me, Tony, but it feels like these guys, what they work on a day-to-day basis doesn't change that much, but the feels they use to work on change all the time. Like they're always searching for like a new feel that will help them do the thing that they want to do. That seems like that's a pretty common theme.
Smiley used to have a saying back in the day when he was on tour and we were working all the time, and he would say, he would text you on a Monday or Tuesday and he would say, I need some new medicine. He would call it needing new medicine. Like he'd want a different approach or a different drill or a different feel to do the same thing, because it was interesting. He would have like about a 2-week run cycle with something working well, and then I think he kind of overdid it or it would lose its feel. But I think that goes right along. I mean, it's a great story. I mean, from a guy who obviously had a great run, but going along with what you just said.
Yeah, exactly. And then like on the different feels thing, it feels like a lot of pros, they all have their own unique feel for like matching up their body with the club face a little bit. Like Bryson will talk about feeling like his left elbow is aligned with the club face, and Matt Fitzpatrick would feel like, oh, his right palm is giving him that club face awareness. Some people talk about their chest giving them their body, and like whether it's exactly matching up in reality, where in the sense where are they exactly pointing in the same direction? Probably not, but they all have their own unique feel where they just like, okay, I know if I do this, with Duval, it was his head. Like I know if my head is moving at the target, then I know kind of where the club face will be. And I think that's really interesting too. I bet a lot of amateurs don't have a feel for their club face through their body in some ways.
No, that's a great point. And again, I think that a lot of golfers don't take the time to slow it down to develop that feel, right? They're going at everything a million miles an hour, trying to hit it. Going back to where you started, they're trying to hit a shot hard, or hit whereas I think tour players spend a lot of time developing the motion and developing a feel for what they're doing and not worried about the result. Whereas recreational golfers don't slow it down and spend all their time worried about the result and then can't figure out why the motions get better.
Yeah, it's true. And I feel like when they have that, like Lee Trevino would talk about the back of his left hand matching up the club face. And even when he's not hitting it well or he's hitting it crooked, at least if he has that sense of awareness, in some ways that just gives him like a starting point to be able to fix whatever problem he's having that day. You know, he just can be like,
Yeah.
okay, if it's going right on me, then now he can focus on a feel which helps him turn his left wrist, you know, down into the ground, whatever it may be. But like he's working backwards from this like foundation of where is the club face? How can I feel the club face? How can I get the club face pointed in where I want to be? Whereas a lot of amateurs, they're just stepping up and swinging and throwing caution to the wind.
Yeah, no, great point there. So last question. I mentioned at the beginning, and we talked off the air. You know, we have a lot of young teachers coming that listen to this, up and coming teachers, and there's so many good ones out there. And it seems like I'm sure you're more aware of it even than I am, but every year it seems like there's a handful more of really, really talented young teachers that burst on the scene that you haven't heard of, that have developed, you know, that have a good player that they've worked with and developed. And that's always my, you know, real passion is people that start at the bottom and they get really good teaching and they develop somebody into a good player instead of somebody that just walks up and down the range trying to get a tour player. What are some of the things you've noticed from all the good teachers coming up? Like, are you noticing any traits or qualities and advice you would give to good young teachers coming up?
I mean, like, to me, the two things I notice, and I'm not a coach, I'm a journalist, and as I cover this industry, I've noticed that young teachers are so much more tech aware than or you know, not tech aware, maybe the wrong word, but there's so much just more plugged into like the latest data about the golf swing, the technology people are using to measuring it, than young teachers of the past, I think. And I find that really fascinating. I feel like the challenge then is always that, you know, I think if you get into the golf instruction industry, you're probably like a bit of a golf swing nerd just by default, right? The key is that like your student doesn't necessarily care about like the tech. They just want to hit the ball better on Friday. So I feel like, and that's a challenge that I go through with on my side of the corner as a media person. I would love to just like veg out and talk about golf swing nerd stuff all day, but the person on the other end of, you know, whatever Golf Digest users reading or watching or whatever, they just want to get a little better right now. They don't necessarily care about like the macro science behind all of this. So that balance, I think, is really important. And then I think another thing that I have a huge appreciation for just teachers generally, but especially young teachers, is that like a lot of people know like the golf swing, right? Like a lot of people know how the golf swing works, how it should work, you know, from pros to journalists to teachers, whatever. But I think like the skill that young teachers develop is learning from older teachers. The skill that young teachers develop is knowing how to like implement that. Like that's the true art of coaching, right? It's not just knowing it. Like I know the golf swing pretty well. My wife is a pretty new golfer, and I'm a horrible teacher. Like I can't get the information through. I'm awful at it. And that to me is like, that's because I'm not a coach. I don't have that coaching skill. The skill is like the actual implementation of the information and getting your student to do it. And like, that's what coaching is. And that to me is something that I'm truly just in awe of you guys about.
Well, I think one of the challenges too is for folks kind of in my generation, maybe to a hair younger to me, that where as we came up, there was a little bit of tech, but there wasn't a lot.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's been a challenge for me, like, you know, because that wasn't kind of how I came up, but, you know, understanding that if you want to continue to be able to develop and reach young people, especially, and develop young players, you have to get more versed in it. And even all the way to social media and stuff like that. Like if you want to be able to reach and communicate and deal with this generation and be relevant and be able to do what you want to do, you have to change and you have to learn and you have to evolve. And I think that's a challenge. Like, you know, there's the challenge for the young teachers, but there's a challenge for those of us that are kind of in the middle, right? You know, it's not everybody's Butch and Randy that are, they've had that hell of a run, and they, Randy obviously uses a lot of tech with Scotty, I know, when he needs to, but there's that middle generation where you're trying to figure out how to stay true to who you are, but still learn and develop.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And like that balance of letting letting the data inform your opinions, but also like making it feel natural, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what's such an art with coaches. I think that's the young coaches that go on to develop, that's the thing that they master. It's that they have a grasp of like the information about the golf swing pretty early. It's about then being able to get your student to like understand it without them feeling completely overwhelmed. That is just such an incredible skill. And the teachers who go from like promising young teacher to top, established top mainstream teacher, that's the skill that they cultivate the most, because if I was to give 100 different teachers a quiz about the golf swing, like I bet like any number of teachers would do awesome at that. But that's not what coaching is necessarily. It's like you need that stuff, but coaching is the actual getting your student to do it, and that to me is like, yeah, it's
that's a piece of gold right there, Luke. That was worth the whole podcast for me, right there. That's brilliant. Oh my God. Hey, thanks so much again for taking the time. You're always available to me, and I'm sure sometimes when my text goes off, you're like, shit, here he comes again. But but I appreciate everything. And also just congrats on all the success, because it's just fun watching, and it's great content. It's great for golf.
Cheers, Tony. I appreciate that. Anytime. You're number one teacher in my heart. So
oh yeah, you're the best. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Take it easy.